good morning, and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Rev Rich, and as always, I'm so grateful for you to join us here today. We begin our series of Back to Basics, or Ground Zero, or however we want to put it. In my old martial arts practice, we would say returning to zero. It's at that point of time where you're in a situation and you've used everything you think you know in that moment, but you need to return to zero to kind of go back and reanalyze things. And that's what we do. A lot of the New Thought churches, whether it's Unity, Center for Spiritual Living, a lot of them do at the beginning of the year is kind of a back to basics type of thing where we kind of review the basics of our beliefs and our practices. So again, if you've ever attended a Unity church, you've probably heard the word, practical Christianity. And what it is our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, talks about when we look at the teachings of Jesus, we need to put them into practice. It's not just enough to read about them. It's the same thing with any other formality, whether it's Buddhism or Catholicism, any of them. If we're only reading the books and hoping for something to change, it never works. We need to actually put them into practice and see how the practice works for ourselves. Jim Rohn always says, when he was asked, there's all these books on nutrition, how do I know which book to read? And he says, read them all, use what works. And it's the same thing here. No, I'm not telling you to go out and study every religion in the world or every spiritual practice out there, but let each one allow yourself to evolve. Never limit yourself. I am a Unity ordained minister, but as I've always said, I have other things that I have studied between being a life coach, between Reiki, between Ho'oponopono, and other practices. When I was younger, I was studying some Buddhism. I looked into the Kabbalah, and there was different things that we did, but it always comes back to the basics, and that's what's important. So before we go forward, let's go ahead and talk about the basics of watching these videos. As always, I say, subscribe, like, share, and hit that bell so you know when we're dropping another video. And again, share this out with people. Maybe this talk doesn't resonate with you, but it may resonate with somebody out there. And if you're as old as I am, you probably remember the Pantene commercials that says, tell two friends and they tell two friends, and so on and so on and so on. And that's what the point is here, that we want these messages to go out, because it may be one thing you hear today, it may be the whole talk, but hopefully something will inspire you to take action and move forward to be the best you can be, because that's what we need from you. That's what the world needs from you, is for you to be the best you, the most authentic you can be. But to do that, you must put yourself in the place of the present and know what your authentic self is. So that's where these practices come in. See, when we come into the world as a baby, we didn't come out with a label that said, well, we're this political affiliation, we're this religious affiliation, we are this, we are that. That was brought to us by those that love us, who say, this is what I believe is the best for you. But in time, that changes. And as a minister, and I've heard other ministers say the same thing. If I ever say, I know all the answers, listen to me, do what I say, stop listening. Because I've lost my mind somewhere up in there. Because my job is to continue to evolve my understanding of God, my understanding of self, my understanding of practice, because of the fact that life evolves and things change and more things get hit to us and we become deeper and deeper into learning. But the moment I say, I'm done, there's nothing else for me to learn, I know everything, is the day I really know nothing. So keep that in the back of your mind. So today, the basics I want to start with are, as Unity calls them, Unity's 5 basic principles. And if you look at New Thought, and there's a wonderful movie, I will warn you, the first part of the movie is kind of slow because they're giving you the history of New Thought. But when you get past that point and start hearing from people who practice New Thought, there is so much to learn, so much that you can engage in, so much beauty that you find within yourselves when you put these things to practice, that it can become overwhelming. I'm one of those people that if you catch my interest, I want to learn that. And if something else, I can learn that. If it's something I find that I want to teach and I want to share it, I want to learn it. But guess what? I'm throwing so many things at myself that in reality, I lose myself. But Unity has put together these 5 principles that help us find the track. So let's review those principles. So one of the messages that I do love that Unity has on their website is we encourage you to explore and apply the Unity teachings based on your own spiritual understanding. We believe that spiritual understanding is enhanced through the reflective prayer and meditation. The 5 basic principles or 5 basic ideas that make up the Unity belief system are, and I'll read those now, but what's important here is that we don't come in here telling you what you have to believe or what you need to believe. These are things you need to discover for yourself. You know, there are many times that myself or my daughter will sit here and we're watching something and she can see a Unity teaching in it, or I can see a Unity teaching in it. She used to tease me and say I couldn't watch a movie without start taking notes to start a lesson plan on it because it was something in that movie that inspired me, something that I was looking at, something that said, wait a minute, that's Unity. And that's what makes it exciting for me. So let's begin with talking about the 5 principles. So the first principle or the first idea is that there's only one presence and one power active as the universe and in my life, God the good. Now again, I know like myself coming into Unity, the word God triggered so many things in me coming from a Catholicism background, seeing how God was used in forms of hate and atrocities and thing in the name of God and things like that. And you know, I've had to come to understand that I had to evolve my understanding of God. So this simple sentence of only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God the good, is allowing me to know that God is now principle. It is something that's in every living and inanimate object. It flows in and through me and in and through everyone else the same way, no matter what it is. Now, we're going to discuss this more as the weeks go on, as I'll take 2 principles and talk about it next Wisdom Wednesday for the next 3 weeks. But I want you to put that in your mind that we start at that basic. There is only one presence, one power active in the universe and in my life, God the good. Second principle is our existence is of God, therefore we are inherently good. This God essence was fully expressed in Jesus the Christ. We tend to put ourselves down, and many practices do. They say that we are less than, whereas we truly are the greatest expression of this presence, because if this presence is moving in, through, in all of us, if this presence is present in every object, whether animate or inanimate, and we call it good, then obviously we are good. Yet we spend time putting ourselves down. We spend time self-deprecating. We spend so much time looking at what's wrong with us rather than looking at what's right with us. I've recently been through some things that even I had to realize that I was looking at why I wasn't important rather than why I was important. Why I was good enough rather than why I wasn't good enough. I had to look away from what was wrong with me and look at what was right with me so that I can move back into that space of knowing if I truly believe that there is one presence, one power active in this universe and in my life, if there is this one principle, whether it's intuition, whether it's God, Allah, it doesn't matter. Whatever this principle is for you is flowing in and out and through all of us, in everything around us. And I can look at something and say it's good, then I must be able to look at myself and say, I'm good. And that's where we begin to create it, because now principle number 3 reminds us that we are co-creators with God, creating reality through the thoughts held in mind. See, if I'm thinking I'm bad, I'm creating an illusion within my life saying that I am bad. If I put that label on anything, I am creating an illusion through my thoughts that something is bad. Now that's a whole other talk between good and bad and what it is. And in many cases, it just is. But in this case, we're talking about our thoughts. So when we look at our perspective, we say that our perspective can either build us up or tear us down. We can use a perspective to look at something, and where one person may say, look how beautiful that is, somebody else may turn around and say, what the hell is that? What is that? That's disgusting. It's this, is that. And we can choose our own perspective. So how we're looking at ourselves, and this is what we're doing here. The practice we're doing starts within us before we can move toward anything else. Before we look at the world as it is, we must look at ourselves and work on ourselves, because it isn't until we are looking through the lenses of our perspective that has been changed to a more positive perspective, to a more God-like perspective, where we're looking through the lenses, or as they say, God's eyes, that we're looking at the beauty within ourselves, that divinity within ourselves that allows us to be best that we are, for those people calling for us to bring our gifts forward, just as we are calling for others to bring their gifts forward for us. Then and only then did our thoughts begin to create the world we want around us. Now we move into our fourth idea, which is through prayer and meditation, we align our heart, mind with God. Denials and affirmations tools we use, through the denials and affirmation tools we use. And again, I'm going very high level this week, just giving you a kind of an overview. Over the next couple of weeks, I will do the same. I looked at it and I said, I can talk about anything in the world, but why not return to the basics of what made me who I am today as a Unity minister? And these principles can be used through any lifestyle, whether you are a part of Unity, whether you're just a regular person watching in, looking for some spiritual instructions, it doesn't matter. These principles can work for all of you. So when we talk about prayer, in Unity, we talk about the affirmative prayer process, which sounds a lot like meditation in some ways. In fact, there's a saying that says that we can meditate without praying, but we can never pray without meditating. 5-step prayer process is very simple. It's easy. Relaxation. What do we do at the beginning of every meditation? We breathe in, allowing ourselves to bring ourselves to the presence. Concentration. We begin to concentrate on something, whether it's a word, it's a saying, it's something we want to bring into our lives. Then it's meditation, where we let go of that thought. We let go of that need. We let go and just listen. When we come out of that meditation, we go into realization. We begin to understand that we are already whole. And it is through our perspective that we create what's already within ourselves. Whether our attitude is driven by positive faith or by negative denial, we create those thoughts through our practice, and we want to bring our mind to that which is the divine self, that good self. Denials and affirmations, again, another talk I can do, but denials are basically just releasing the power that something has over us. So if I'm in fear of something, I release the power that fear has over me as I affirm that I cannot fail, for I am a true expression of this presence, and there is no failure in this expression. And that's that. But the most important idea here, which for me has always been what I live by, is through thoughts, words, and actions, we live the truth we know. Another way that was taught to me was, it's not enough to know the truth, but we must live the truth we know. And that's one of the most important parts of it. So I remember discussing this with people, and I've taught it at Unity of Northeast Pennsylvania. And during our talks, I remember sitting in the front pew looking up at the front of our sanctuary, and we have our 2 banners up there that have the 5 principles written on them for people to read. And I was sitting there reading them, and I remember receiving a text message, and they were talking about the talk I did, and they're like, okay, so, number 1 is knowing that God is all there is, one presence, one power active in the universe, blah, blah, blah. And then we know that we're good because we're an essence of that, or an expression of God, so forth and so on. And our thoughts create our lives. And they're going through everything. They're like, okay, but how do I get to that point of knowing that God is this and that? How do I get to the point of going from that to me being good? I have all these thoughts. I have all these things. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at these banners, and it hit me. And now, for you Unity people who are checking me out and reading this, give me a minute because you may think I'm crazy. But the rest of you, it may make sense. What hit me was reverse it. And I know it sounds crazy, but reverse it. So when somebody now asks me, well, how do I put those 5 principles into motion? I tell them, reverse it. Now, here's what I mean. Principle number 5, through thoughts, words, actions, we live the truth we know. Well, here's the problem. When we talk about the law of attraction, the problem is in the word attraction is the word action. And people forget that. People watch The Secret. They watch all these shows. They join up in all these law of attraction workshops and all that. And they hear about all the wonderful things they can think it into existence, but nobody tells them about the action. And yes, I'm going to hold off because I can go another 3 hours on this topic alone. And that'll be about 3 weeks from now. And no, I will not be talking for hours, but still, it is that important. We must take some type of action. And that is the problem. We love to brag about what we're going to do. We love to brag about how good things are. We love to brag about stuff, but the action behind it. Trust me, I have fallen and failed in that message where I will come in and I'll say that I manifested something or some good came in because I felt that the people I was talking to needed to hear that, but I didn't take full action. And we'll talk about right action again in the 3rd week when we talk about principle number 5. But I've done that and then not take full action, and then I fall on my face. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I talk about failing forward. It's a John C. Maxwell title, loved it, but it's about failing and saying, okay, that person that called me out was right. I realized that I didn't take full action, so now I need to take full action. And trust me, in this world, we're going to hear it because people like myself who just say, you know what, I've learned over and over again. I've read all the books and took no action. I listened to all the audios and I took no action and wondering why my life wasn't changing. And now that I start saying, hey, you know what, this is the idea that came to me, I'm going to go ahead and jump into action. Sink or swim, I'm jumping into the pool. No matter how cold the water is, I'm not going to tip my toe and go, ooh, it's chilly, I'll wait. No, I'm going to jump in because my body will adjust. And even if I fail, I've moved that much more forward. And trust me, you will have people who will tell you you're moving too fast, you're not doing that, and that's okay. Because I'd rather move forward and fail than sit back and watch my life go by. So we're reversing it. We talk about taking some action. Well, what kind of action can I take to get started? Well, we talked about meditation and prayer. We talked about the 5-step prayer process. Because sometimes we don't need to know everything to know that we need to start somewhere. So what if we just took some time in the silence and, we have some problems at the beginning because all these thoughts are running through. And if you watched any of my meditation videos, I tell you to be gentle with yourself. Allow those thoughts to come, thank it, know that you're alive, let it go, and try to go back to the silence. Whether you use a mantra-based meditation, a word-based meditation, whether you're using a guided meditation, whether you're using a candle meditation, you want to take some type of action. And if you want to know more about the 5-step prayer process, you can look it up on YouTube or go to unity.org or any other spot. Or if you happen to be near a Unity center, join in with them. And again, these are things you can do. And you don't even know how to do it. Just take the action to begin. And when we take the action and start practicing the prayers and meditation, guess what? We begin to work on our thoughts. And our thoughts, because we know that we co-create through those thoughts, we've begun a practice to change those thoughts to more positive thoughts. We know that the practice is changing our thoughts. But so when we know that, we are now open in our mind and our hearts to allow the belief that we are good to enter into our system. And when we're open to know that we are good, we know that all that comes through us and out of us in expression is good. So we know that that presence and power that comes through us is based on that good. For those who have studied the Bible and the Hebrew scriptures, we know that we talk about in Genesis that God created everything and he looked at it and said it was good. So how can we ever say anything different about ourselves if that we are not good when the God as we know, the presence that we know that goes in and out and through us is good? And since we know that we are an expression of this presence, and we know that this presence is one power, one presence, active as the universe in our lives, God the good, and we know that all of this happens in this present moment through that, then we know how to put these principles into place. So we took action. I told you what type of action to take, the results of those actions and what it does, and now that the result of that thought process is that we are good because we are in the presence of good. Very simple. Reverse it. So as I said, for the next 3 weeks, I'll be talking about more about it. There is, when we talk about the Holy Trinity and Unity, we talk about mind-body expression. So we talk about the mind being principles 1 and 2, body being 3 and 4, and finally expression is the action we take. So I hope you tune in for the next 3 weeks as we go through these basics. And please remember, even though these are unity teachings, even though I am a unity minister, these principles can be utilized by anyone, no matter what it is. So I hope you got something out of today. Hope you're looking forward to seeing you on our next episode. And as always, I love you. Nothing you can do about it. And practice, take some action today. And I'm counting on you to do it. So namaste, and I'll see you in the next one.